Russia continues to increase its military spending. Poor regions keep receiving funds, and the standard of living for soldiers is rising. At first glance, it seems as if the Russian economy is stable, but this is just another illusion for Russians. Beneath this appearance of stability lies the simple depletion of reserves.
Russia entered the war with a very large margin of safety, and this reserve comes from low inflation, low government debt, and in general, the macroeconomic situation. And of course, over these years, much of this margin of safety has been used up.
But how long will the resources last if Russia continues its war of aggression against Ukraine?
The most optimistic forecasts say, half a year, just half a year, that is until the end of 2025, after which Russia will no longer be able to continue military operations in the current active phase. While there are more moderate forecasts that give at least a year. And by the way, President of Ukraine, Zelensky, also mentioned this when he named June 2026 as the point of no return for the Russian economy. But indeed, there are scenarios where Russia could last 2 or even 3 years.
If we look at a time frame of 1 or 2 years, the Russian state does have reserves to continue the war. Further on, if we look ahead, then questions start to arise because, of course, you just have to understand that, to put it briefly, what has been happening in recent years is that everything set aside for the future has been used up in the present moment. That is, for example, the future economic growth and future stability and so on have all been sacrificed for what is happening right now.
The American Analytical Center CSIS describes what is happening as a sugar high, a sharp surge fueled by oil and military spending, followed by a downturn.
The Russian economy has lived through many lives since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. After the initial shock of the invasion passed, the country experienced a sugar rush thanks to record hydrocarbon revenues and a sharp increase in government military spending. However, now the economy appears to have entered its post-sugar hangover, and its internal reorganization has settled down, according to a report by the Washington-based analytical center CSIS.
The analysts outlined 3 possible scenarios for the development of the Russian economy. The first, sanctions remain as they are, and the Kremlin continues the war at the same level for at least another 3 years. The second, sanctions are eased and Russia gains additional resources for escalation. The third, a sharp tightening, and then Moscow loses the financial ability to wage war. This could be the very moment when the Kremlin is forced to engage in serious talks. But even this does not guarantee an immediate end to the war.
The Russian economy is currently in what can be described as a pre-stagnation state, because the real GDP growth this year, according to various estimates and reports, may be around 1.3 to 1.5%, or possibly even less. For an economy like the Russian Federation, this is a very serious challenge. Despite the fact that this year Russia has significantly increased direct funding for the security and defense sector by more than $35 billion in total government expenditures over the course of the year.
And this says one thing. On the one hand, Russia is gathering all its resources and throwing them into the war. On the other hand, there is the civilian sector, and there its complete stagnation development has stopped, and the entire system is operating in a mobilization mode. And it simply can't go on like this much longer.
And even the military-industrial complex, which is now operating at 100% of its capacity, does not help to pull through or compensate for this situation. Although, of course, for formal reports, this might be enough, but it does not eliminate the critical problems in the Russian economy. In this case, a comprehensive set of solutions is needed in order to increase direct pressure on the Russian Federation. Otherwise, the economy will adapt, and indeed, these negative impacts will be spread out over time and will not deliver the necessary cumulative effect. And in addition, of course, there is the shock stage for the economy. All of these should have directly motivated Putin to end the active phase of hostilities.
What is happening now with the economy of the aggressor country is a long game. But the system is already starting to shake, and Russians will inevitably feel the consequences of their silence just a little later. Even now, there is a catastrophic labor shortage, an overheated credit market, unstable oil and gas revenues, and a dangerous dependence on China. And this is only the beginning of a major decline. But the question is not only how long Russia's resources will last, but also how much longer the world will keep watching and waiting.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
A brief overview of Russian absurdity, which is now being presented in Russia as state wisdom.
We are fighting for sovereignty so that they don't interfere. Do you understand? What is happening in Ukraine? Well, Zelensky and his people, they're not behaving nicely. People are mentally ill. They think that we attacked it, but it wasn't us. If we hadn't gotten ahead of them, they would have come to us. They would have slaughtered us. They wouldn't even have wasted bullets on us.
For example, Sergei Stepashin revealed the sensational truth about how Ukraine suddenly stopped loving Russia. According to him, it's all because of brainwashing the Ukrainians, which made them suddenly stop loving their big brother. And now we have to somehow fix the situation.
We could have worked on it. We could have found people we needed to work with. I say this as a former FSB director. We missed it, unfortunately. We missed it. And then over 30 years, they really brainwashed people. And there's a Russian people in the Russian city. This is Azov, my God. That's how it is. That's why we have to make up for what was missed.
The logic voiced by the politicians seems especially convincing. In order to make Ukrainians love Russia, they had to be hit with missiles and bombs. Well, you see, destroy half the country, there you have it, love.
Well, we thought it wouldn't go anywhere. I believe this was a huge strategic mistake at the beginning of the 90s. They won't go anywhere. This is a brotherly people. They won't go anywhere. They'll get over it. But over there, they work systematically. The Yankees, Western Europe, and everyone who could be bothered.
And yet, it would seem they could have become the main voices in favor of peace. But no, instead they enthusiastically talk about how they'd like to go back, quoting, "That's where life really begins."
I constantly want to go back, but I just can't. My arm, I still don't know when it will heal.
If I could see with even one eye, I would go back to the war.
I would go again, but only there. But I can't. Just for what reason? For the feeling you get out there on the battlefield. Life is completely different there. The values are totally different.
While previous generations said never again, the new ones add with a smile, "We can do it again." As you can see, the propaganda has done its job. Now, war is not a horror, but an extreme attraction for patriotically minded adrenaline junkies. Meanwhile, philosopher and publicist Prokhanov once again amazed the public with his profound reflections. According to him, the Russian people endure the cruelty of their state and do so with understanding and dignity.
Ego decided to wipe the rebellious Russian continent off the face of the earth. There is no other state in the world that is more severe, harsh, or even cruel. The Russian people endure the cruelties of the state, bear the burdens placed upon them because they understand if there is a state, there is a Russian people. If there is no state, the people disappear, turning into a meaningless mob, prey for foreign invaders or homegrown fanatics.
The question of why people need a state that treats its citizens cruelly and violates their rights was, unfortunately, left unanswered by the philosopher. Apparently, for a true patriot, it is enough that the state simply exists. As for how it behaves, that's just a minor detail.
Putin dwells in history. Putin's empire is the one we live in. We bear its terrible weight on our shoulders while nurturing a wonderful dream. We are the people of the Fifth Empire.
And on June 6th, it was Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin's birthday, Russian language day, and as it turned out, a fitting moment for a massive missile strike on Ukrainian cities. That's the opinion of Russian propagandist Ivan Pankin, for whom the thunder of explosions and the deaths of civilians apparently fit quite well with the spirit of high Russian culture.
By the way, today is Pushkin Day, friends. Yes, Russian language day, right? Pushkin Day. Geekin Day, huh? Yes, Pushkin Day. I think this is actually a fitting day for a massive strike on Ukraine.
Now, from the series of triumphant reports from the front line, a Russian volunteer proudly posts on social media, for the third day in a row, he's been hauling body bags for cargo 200. All is on track and stable, works in...
Today, guys, I want to say that during the offensive, a lot of our guys are dying. I've never done this before, but now, for the third day in a row, I've been hauling body bags for Cargo 200. You all understand what that means, right? These are our fallen soldiers, our brothers, our sons.
When asked what these guys are dying for, our hero unfortunately has no answer. He starts mumbling something about Russia's interests, national security, geopolitics, and other nonsense that's usually used to cover up emptiness. Why these interests are pursued by burning Ukrainian cities and killing children in another country, he doesn't know and apparently doesn't want to know.